Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another webinar series of our I'm Loving Me. I am the creator and the founder of Gloria Ward, and the guest that we have tonight, I am so excited to introduce her. First off, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been responding on social media to us, who has actually been submitting their stories, who've actually been telling their stories and giving their testimonials. We are so thankful, and we just want you to continue to like and to share your information. And just to let you guys know what I'm Loving Me is about. What our vision is to empower women all over the world to get over their limiting beliefs and to dispel any of the things that's holding them back in order for them to live their best life. And it is my personal mission to help 1 million women love themselves. 1 million women love themselves. So I'm excited to introduce one amazing woman tonight who has overcome so many obstacles in her life that I am going to let her share her story. And our concept that we ask everybody is, what do you see when you look in the mirror? So I want to introduce you guys tonight to a friend of mine who I actually went to school with, and her name is Lawanda Stewart. So Lawanda, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm here. Tasha asked me about, do I want to be a part of this? And I said, sure. I'll answer the question.
Okay.
And I didn't answer right away because I didn't know what I was going to say.
Okay.
But I think your initial question was, what do you see when you look in the mirror, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So.
And so tell us, what did you see when you looked in the mirror, when you looked at yourself?
I saw, I'm kind of cute. It's just what it is. Like, you know what? She's all right. And it took years to get there. This wasn't it took decades to get there to a point where I can look in the mirror and say, you know what? The person that's looking back at me is actually quite fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because, not to be facetious, this is for years I was the ugly one, the fat one, the clumsy one. Still am clumsy, but there's another reason for that.
Right.
Just, so demoralized, so suffering from a lack of self-esteem that to look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm cute, would not have come across my mind.
And where did that come from? Was it family? Was it friends? Was it environment? Because, growing up in New York, it was always, oh, you get the latest stuff, or, you go back to school and you have on new clothes, or, things like that, the kids will make in front of you, and you run home crying. I know I had plenty of those days.
Right.
But what was it that made you feel that way?
It really started, like so many of us, when my dad left. That was the beginning of the confusion, because, like many girls, the first man that you fall in love with is your father.
Right.
And so when that first man breaks your heart in a way that you can't understand because you are 6 years old, you don't understand all of the details of why your parents are breaking up, and neither you shouldn't understand because it's too much for you to understand. But you're 6 and all you knew is that daddy is not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And automatically you blame yourself. And I think this is my thing for fathers. I don't think that they realize just how important they are to daughters, because they teach the daughters what men are and what to avoid. And so, when you don't get that when you're young. You go into school. So imagine that, I'm 6 years old. I barely surviving, kindergarten.
Right.
Right into first grade with a whole lot of different personalities, different levels of children. We're not all 5 years old in the same class and we're stuck together. No, now we have first graders to fifth graders. It's a whole different level. And the predators are there. And they were there.
Mm.
And I got caught up because I had no defenses. My mom was trying to raise two children with no money, no education. She didn't have anything because she was hoping that the man of the house would be the man of the house.
Right.
So she stepped in. She is now in training, getting a job, trying to pay the rent, keep us from being homeless. So we are dirt poor.
Survive, basically.
So no, we did not have the latest and the greatest of all of that. We weren't walking to school with overpriced sneakers and clothes and all that other good stuff, because my mother didn't have it. Okay, so you were not naked, be happy.
Right.
Okay, and you were fed, be happy. So this is where we were. But at the same time, you get to school, and when you don't hear especially from your father, oh, you're pretty, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're this, when you don't hear it, and the girls who are jealous of you actually are calling you ugly.
Wow.
And boys who are caught up in, I was born in the 80s. I was born in 1980, so 80s child, 90s baby. But in the 80s, if you remember, if you weren't light-skinned with green eyes or hazel eyes, you weren't pretty.
Right.
Because we were still stuck on that.
Right.
So if you were dark skin, kinky curly hair, you were not pretty. You did not. So you were in this class of undesirables, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed to let them think that, okay, well, the only thing you're good for is to satisfy me. Or if they saw that you did not have that self-esteem, they knew, I'm going to target her. I'm going to tell her she's pretty. I don't mean it, but I know that if I tell her she's pretty, she'll do whatever I want her to do. Mm-hmm. And so you have me, that's my life from, from sixth grade up until, let's say, junior high school.
Okay.
In fact, it actually didn't end until I met you guys at FBA.
Right. So you fell into the whole thing of, if the guys say that you're pretty and everything, those were the guys that you actually get with just because, right, they were saying something that you was longing for from basically your father.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And that was it. And the bad thing was that most of those guys were significantly older than me. Mm. So they knew better. And we're talking about, if I am in the second grade and you're in the seventh grade, you know that there's no reason why you should be talking.
Girl, no.
Exactly. So these are the type of predators that are,
okay.
And we'll leave the adults aside. That's another. I'm talking about the adolescent predators who were preying on other adolescents. Those were the types that I had to deal with.
Right.
So when you have that and you're still trying to survive, and my primary goal was just to survive elementary school. Now, again, I'm going to the school in South Bronx, good God. My zone school was Taft. Yes.
Okay.
So, if you knew anything about South Bronx, and if you knew anything about Taft High School.
I grew up there. Yes, I do.
So, this is the crowd that I'm living around.
Right.
By day. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm fighting. I was in elementary school. I was in a fight at least once a week for some reason that I can't describe. There was always some reason to fight. Ask me what, I don't know. And some of them were brutal and didn't win them all, but didn't lose them all. But I had to fight because there was no such thing as not fighting.
Right.
And it's just, I had a little brother, so I had to protect him. So people are fighting him for whatever reason, and it's just this constant battle. So between the predators and the unnecessary confrontation, and people in school doing everything but learning, you you wonder, when did you have time to read a book? But I did, and I managed to read the books, and I managed to ace those ridiculous exams they gave us at the end of the year every year, and I kept plowing through it.
But what was home life like? Could you ever go to your mom and explain what was
um,
going on, or what was what I'm trying to get at is why you're going through all of that, which is very normal. You have a very normal story. Because I know growing up in the Bronx, it was the same way. It was six of us. And we all, we grew up with our grandmother. My mom, was an addict. She died when I was 7 years old, and she actually died of AIDS, but we didn't know it. It was pneumonia back then, and, the only thing that we knew was now we living with grandma, and grandma is saying, well, who's going to help me with all these kids, you know? And so as a kid, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, now this is my life. And now I have this person who I know who grandma is, but now she's here every day. And I'm going to school and it's time for parent teacher conference. And I have no mom to bring. I have no grandma to come because she got to work, and I have to bring an aunt, or I will have to go for my own brothers and sisters to their classes in order to go ahead and pick up their report cards and do all that stuff because there was nobody there. But in the midst of that, like, was your mom there, or who was there for you that you can actually kind of talk to about this stuff that you were going through?
but at that time, there wasn't anyone, and I'll tell you why. It wasn't because of my mom not paying attention.
I
We were
understand.
we were latchkey kids. Had
Yeah,
to be in the house by a certain time.
true indeed.
That's just it, because my mom couldn't afford, special daycare. Once we aged out of daycare, that was paid, supplemented by whomever. We had to be home by a certain time.
Mhm.
My mother worked full time, so her involvement, she was involved as much as she could have been involved. But at the same time, the stuff that these boys and I were doing, and some of the girls, let's just put that out there.
Okay.
We My mom was very strict with, as far as a moral code, as far as sexuality, and this was not supposed to be happening. You were too young for this. So I kept all of that secret because I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I just wanted that feeling of belonging, of someone nurturing me in that way. It was a different type of quote unquote love. So
Yes.
just that motherly affection. So no, my mother loved us and she would die for us. That wasn't it. So my mother, and when my mother caught wind of certain things, and my mother always caught when there was something with an adult. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't so much that she would catch what the kids were doing, because, and I guess my mom's were, she was like, how? When did you guys have time to do this? When? Because you're supposed to be here and here and here. So I didn't really tell my mom anything that happened to me when I was a child until I was in my mid-20s, I believe.
Oh, wow. But, and then again, like, how would they know? Because the only thing that they're focusing on is trying to make sure they keep food on the table, making sure that they're doing their part. So they're so engulfed in keeping a job, keeping food on the table, paying the rent, doing this, where they're like, look, I don't want to, but I need y'all help. So we could go ahead and make this work,
And the thing is, one, I'm a phenomenal actress. And that's what I was when I was a kid. I was a great student. And I kept the grades up. So that kept one level of pressure out of my mom. Okay, my child is not an idiot.
Gotcha.
So she will do better than me, at least secularly. I was good at the school. I was good at protecting my little brother. That was pretty much two of my responsibilities. We came home. My mother was one of those parents that taught us, so it wasn't this, oh, you focus on schoolwork. No, you had to clean, you had to cook, you had to live, because you can't just be sitting up here while I'm doing all the work and you living.
Right.
No, not that kind of motherhood. It was just, I'm going to teach you how to make spaghetti and meatballs so that you can feed yourself spaghetti and meatballs when necessary, that kind of thing. So it was not just the give. We had to learn. So we learned how to cook, we learned how to clean, we learned how to maintain a house. And, but again, that aspect of my life, I was able to just keep to me. And it only started to show as my weight started to grow. See that from the age of 6 and upward, every year I just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And clearly everyone, she eats too much. Well, that's the simple answer to it. Of course it is. Right. But as active as I was, believe me, I was a tomboy. I would tackle you, no problem.
Right.
Only sport I did not like to play was basketball.
Okay.
Don't know why, but basketball I was not thrilled about. But no, football, soccer, baseball, you name anything where, that kind of sport, I played that. Okay. But so I was just great at hiding my feelings and hiding everything.
And was that what the food did for you? For you to have that comfort where you weren't able to really express yourself?
The food was great, and I'll tell you, because my mom is from Alabama.
Okay.
So she's a Southern cook, and so when you know how to make all of those things that some people only get at Thanksgiving or Christmas time, like sweet potato pie, I can make that tomorrow.
Right.
Oh, you want cookies? No problem. So I was in the kitchen cooking.
Okay.
So, or we were eating a whole lot of junk food. This was when quarter waters existed, when those butter cookies from, what you call that, were only like 30 cents a pack. It's like they're like $1 now. But, I could eat myself in peace. And I was good at math. Excuse me. And if you weren't smarter than me, I could con you out of your money. I had my own cons running.
Okay.
No one wanted to wear a uniform to school. It was too geeky. It was too nerdy. I had to wear the uniform. Why? Because I saved my mother money. However, in order to get out of school at lunchtime, you had to wear your uniform. So I would charge everybody $1 to go to McDonald's.
Wow.
I would come back from McDonald's with like 30 orders. So I would make $30 a day. Just picking up food for other people. So I managed to figure out a way to get money when there wasn't much to get. I was employed since I was 14 years old. Literally, I've been working since 14. As soon as I got my working papers, I had an early birthday, which means I got the job first.
Yeah.
That were born. If you were born in, July, you couldn't get anything.
Right.
Born early enough, you could apply for all of those summer jobs and everything. So my work ethic came from being dirt poor and understanding the value of money, and that was significant. As far as, well, I guess one, supporting my poor eating habits because I knew that I would have the money to buy what I want, because at that moment, eating that thing felt great, and it hid whatever pain I was going through.
And that's what I was trying to say. What was the pain at the time?
At the time, I didn't know what it was. I literally was too young to know what it was. All I know is that I wasn't happy and that this cupcake made me feel good. And I think part of the pain, I guess what I could say is that it seemed like everyone had a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and it seemed like they were happy. It seemed that way. And I don't know, I guess I felt that I was missing out, and the only way I could ever seem to get a guy to be with me was if we were to do something sexual.
Gotcha.
So that was it. And so when I was just tired of the, I just don't want to have sex with you guys anymore. And I shouldn't be, because at 6, I'm definitely not responsible. I shouldn't
No.
what it is, and nor at 7, nor at 8, nor at 10, nor at 12, not 15, damn near, hell, not even 40. So,
Girl.
just one of those things. If you're not ready for the responsibility that it, and I'm not talking just about childbirth, I mean everything that takes out of you.
I understand.
And I don't think people really understand that, especially nowadays, since it seems so commonplace. But no, it does take something from you. It always does. And the more you try to pretend that it doesn't,
yeah,
the deeper the hole you dig yourself. And that's just it. And so at some point when you just, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm worth more than this. And I changed my focus.
And so what was that point? Was it a time where you was just sitting in your room? Did something happen? Or you just said, you know, you had enough, that you were going to change? Like, what was that point in your life? And when, actually?
I want to say it was when I was 16. A lot happened at 16. At 16, I had my first real boyfriend.
Okay.
The first boy that I will say that I actually loved.
Okay.
In fact, I still have a little trinket that we exchanged when we were kids. Now, I mean, we're 16, don't really know what love is, but he was the one that just wanted to hang out. Didn't want anything from me other than let's just hang out, let's do this, let's do that. No side chicks or any of that stuff. It was just that. And you know, we grew apart because it's just what happens. You grow apart, your family moves away. But it was having that real boyfriend for that, you know, for that little time. And it's like, oh, this is what that's supposed to be. Not what it was.
Right.
Before. Not all of that. Oh, I get it. So I don't want that ever again. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, didn't work out that well. We didn't get there yet, but no, I think that's when I realized that, okay, you know what, there is something to me, there's something about me that someone found desirable. So I just need to see it in myself, what the pretty is, if you know what I mean. So it was just, okay, because yeah, it's like I'm smarter than most of you. In school, it's like, and I guess it just comes down to a very candid view of the world.
Yeah.
And I didn't have these princess glasses on. So okay, this is what it really is. This is how we're gonna survive this. I had to figure it out. So, you know, skip ahead. High school was a fairly calm period. Literally, it wasn't. I just focused on schoolwork at that point. I really didn't. I wasn't in for any nonsense. So, and if you were the person that tried to bring it to me, I cut you off. I didn't deal with you. So that's it. Very limited associates. Most people knew of me, but very few people knew me.
Right.
And that's how it was. Then we graduate. They tell us that we were adults when we were 18, which is a big fat lie, but we buy it. And we go to college, and that was the next phase of life, where, you know, still me trying to figure out who I was. And it definitely was the worst time, first year of college. That's the absolute, in my opinion, the worst time to try to figure out who you are, especially when it costs you $25,000 a year to go to the school.
Right.
And you're sitting there bombing.
Right.
This was a damn expensive way to learn stuff.
Right. Right.
So after that catastrophe, because that was the first year at NYU, I got in, I tanked. I think that was the worst academic performance of my life. Not because of lack of intelligence, just because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what I wanted to do.
But did that confuse you, though? Because all the rest of the years, it sounded like school was the thing that you knew you had. You know, you had that rock solid. You know, if everything else was going crazy, you knew that I can go ahead, ace this exam, do this, keep a rock solid grade point average, and do the and keep myself solid. Where when you get to college, it's just like, well, what the hell is going on?
I think there was a lot of confusion. I didn't know anything about college. I didn't know what the most, honestly, it came from television. It was between A Different World and
Yeah.
watching Theo Huxtable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was it. So I'm expecting just everything that didn't happen. And especially when you go to a school like NYU, which is a partial dorm school because they had a lot of commuting students and then they had a lot of dorm students.
Right.
I think if I had dormed, it may have been a different experience, but no, traveling back and forth to that school every day, it was like having a full-time job.
Wow.
Because I had to work and then I'm going to school and then I don't know what I'm doing and my classes were all over the place. It was just, it was a disaster. And then, and believe it or not, what changed the world too was we got the internet in a social media way. This was the birth, when we were there in that time when we graduated, it was the MySpace, and I think there was a website called College Club. And a couple of other social media was being born.
Coming alive. Mm-hmm.
And that served as a huge distraction because then you had like these before eHarmony, those sites where, oh, I want to get to know you. So you had these internet-based relationships with, again, more disasters.
Right.
I don't know you. So now we say catfish. It's like, that's just one lying ass motherfucker. That's just it's not what you are at all. And so yeah, after being distracted and getting way off course, just mentally preparing myself to get back to really understand what adulthood was.
Yeah.
And so that didn't happen until a few years later. And finally got back into school, started working full time. And so I don't know, that's when everything really started to see, oh, I can do this. I can do that. And looking into me and seeing, oh, you want to know what? You can fix things. And so in between the time of high school and when I first started working, I had managed to get up to about over 500 pounds.
Good now.
Yeah, I had gained a ton of weight. I was not a happy person.
500 pounds? I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Pictures, I can act. Let me see. I don't know.
No, don't. 500 pounds? What was going on? So that part in your life, what was that? What was that?
That, again, was depression from just feeling like a failure because of not being able to complete that little.
Right, because you couldn't hold on. The thing that you held on to wasn't there anymore. The whole thing with school. Okay.
Education. Okay. That was
right. That. Right. Okay.
And then, so I'm working, I'm finding jobs, I'm getting these little things, but nothing is definite, nothing is secure. I don't want to do this forever.
Right.
So every job I get, oh, you're great at this job. I said, I know, because I'm a workaholic. But I do. I can take control. I don't really need much direction. So that's the work part was never a problem, but I wasn't happy. I mean, I literally remember going to the Chinese restaurant and ordering 3 different meals and eating them all.
Wow.
Just binging just like that. And so you can imagine any hood Chinese restaurant, every plate is about 1,000, 2,000 calories. So imagine eating all of that in one setting and then times that by 3 times a day. So it wasn't good. And so that's when I would get into the binging. And it was to a point where I was at work and the lady said, hey, I think you should go see this doctor about having a weight loss surgery. And so that took place in 2003. Mm-hmm. And it was necessary. And I think she did it out of the kindness of her heart because I mean, if I can go back, I would not have the surgery. I really wouldn't. But that's only knowing what I know now.
Right.
But at that time, it helped because I lost about 250 pounds.
Okay.
So, um, you know, that helped. That was back in 2003. And I think then I finally started to just grow up and just see myself more. And I think a lot of it was juxtaposed with my responsibilities at work. Because at each promotion, it gave me another level of confidence. And there you see it. I'm doing this. And it was to the point where someone just texted me, said, "Oh, well, you grown and sexy now, huh?" And
No.
you know what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am. Because there's a certain amount of confidence that you need to have when you're managing other people.
Right.
And you have to look at yourself, be like, okay, how can I manage a team of 10 and not have myself together?
Right.
It's just not, it isn't going to go anywhere.
Right.
So to be myself, to be honest, that never leaves. But literally with every year that passed, I started to grow more and more confident in me. Not saying that I'm 100% of anything, because that's just.
No, I get that. I get that, but you're back in control, basically, where you have the thing that you know you can hold on to. You have something where you're striving towards something. You're managing a team. You're able to go ahead and push yourself. That allows you to become more of yourself, because the more you do that, the more you start to discover those things that you know you need to change.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's how it ended up. And I had to do it by myself. I didn't want to tie it to any one person. Like, I get the question a lot, how come you're not dating anyone? And I said, stop asking me that question. It's none of your business. I will when I want to. It sometimes it's just I'm okay by myself. I really am. Right now, this is what I need to do because I'm still a work in progress. And
That's
this is
okay.
working on. And when I decide to, when I meet the person that understands that and is willing to work with that, then we can talk about a relationship in the future and all that other kind of stuff. But right now, I have to be selfish, and that's what I was not in the past. I was not selfish enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it. Sometimes not sometimes, you have to be selfish in a way that you protect yourself. I'm not saying selfish as in you run on the train and try to get the seat before everybody else and step on everybody's toes kind of selfish. Selfish is in I have to take care of me before I let you kill me.
Right.
Kind of selfish. And that's the only other way that's how I figured it out. And it's hard for me because I'm actually a very giving person.
Well, I tell people self-love is being selfish. You know why? Because you know how the family would tell you charity starts at home and then spread abroad, you know, or they'll tell you you got to love yourself before you can love anybody else. Because how are you able to give somebody something you don't have? You understand? You just can't. You just can't. So if you are sitting up here and you don't even know who you are, you can't love, you don't even know how to love yourself. Ain't no way you're going to love somebody else. What you're going to do is you're going to give them a whole bunch of pain because you're going to you're going to give them a whole bunch of grief so that they can go ahead and stick around and guilt them to stay and do all that stuff. You're going to give them your pain. Where if you got the self-love, you don't care. You know, you bring your 100%, I bring mine. You know,
as simple as that. It's like I don't want to raise you. We're
right.
Too old for that. We're two imperfect people trying to create one unit.
Right.
You know, without killing each other. Because I mean, I'm 38. I'm too old to go to prison.
So
it's not.
So where are you now? So right now it's just work, and are you working out? Are you still doing different things? Like, where are you now? I know you said right now you think you the bomb and you loving yourself. You do look amazing, actually. You know, I still don't believe the 500-pound thing, but that's okay. I don't believe that. I just can't see that. You know.
Betcha.
But where are you right now? And what would you say to a woman who is in that position where she is trying to identify, basically trying to identify herself and where she fits in the world, um, where she's able to go ahead and say to herself, you know what, just like you said, I need to be a little bit more selfish and I need to love myself.
I think at some point in our lives, we literally have to look at other people and say, fuck you.
Right.
And it's just, and, and I mean to be that, blunt, because you have to, all of these people who keep taking, and giving you nothing. And at the you're dangling because you literally have nothing left. You've tried to give all you could give. You're trying to be a good person, but something you're fuck you. Go get away from me. And I think that may be for one woman who is searching, trying to put it together and figure out who she is and what she is. Just like, I'm not the sum of all of the negativity that has happened to me. That's not it. That's history. And at some point you have to just let history be history and make a point where you're going to start from a new point. So July 3rd, 2003, I let a doctor literally cut a hole in my stomach so that we could solve a problem. And I have the scar to this day, straight down my belly. So no bikinis for me. But it's literally a daily reminder of just how, of where everything led me. Because as I started losing that weight, I was literally losing the pain of
Wow.
all of what these pounds, all of what that food was representing at that time, all of that pain. And so what I would tell that lady is like, listen, start cussing people out. And where, I mean, because it's those things, it's the only way you're gonna find yourself. And it's to the point where you have to let people know, I have to think about myself. I do. And I think another defining moment for me was when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Because that wasn't easy. It was a lot happened that literally for 1 year. But it was in February of 2009. Weird thing happened. The right side of my body would go into this unbelievably painful paralysis. And I couldn't, the left side of my body wasn't strong enough to hold me up, so I would end up falling to the ground.
Wow.
And it would happen every 5 minutes. And then, someone finally said, okay, go to a neurologist, get an MRI. Whatever's happening to you is not because you were pumping iron. This is neurological. You do this, couple of MRIs and spinal tap later, some blood work, okay, you have multiple sclerosis. So then we start treatment. So I think at that point, it's just like, okay, what are you going to do? Figuring out how this disease progresses. How am I going to live with this condition? It helped. It was a bit of a relief because it put a name to a lot of pain. I was formally diagnosed in 2009, but I may have had it as early as 2004. Wow. Because I remember when I couldn't use my arms and my hands to the point where I had to get a doctor to write a note so I could take one of my college finals on a computer because I couldn't write. I couldn't hold a pen. So, but at that time, no one could figure out what was wrong with me. I guess they weren't thinking MS. So that was definitely a moment when I had to say, okay, it's about me.
Yeah.
I absolutely cannot take on the stress of, constantly allowing people to get to me. And I'm not saying that it's been perfect ever since. Believe me, I have days where people just get under my skin. I have days where people should be very, very, very grateful that it didn't go a different way. It's just like I said, I'm too old to go to prison.
Right.
Too old. So, but no, it was just looking and sitting there, looking. I was like, you want to know what? All of this, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, hey, you're kind of cute.
Yeah.
You went through all of this for nothing.
I always thought you was pretty in school, and you always had like such a beautiful smile with a little one dimple thing going on, and I was like, oh, okay, I always remember that.
Things and I, yeah, little things that people have told me over the years that I never really registered. It came flooding to me, and that one little bit of self-esteem that it was just that one little bit of self-esteem that I needed, and it grew. Like, oh, that's all you needed. That was it. And it definitely changed the way I deal with people, the way I live my life, and how I view things. So it's and how I allow people to interact with me, because there are just certain things that I'm not going to stand for.
Okay.
So, and it's been a growing process, definitely, and it took some time, but at a certain point, you really do, like I said, you just have to say, "Oh, y'all, fuck all y'all." Like, I'm not doing this anymore, because you're going to kill me, and it isn't fair, and I don't deserve to be killed.
Right. Well, Lawanda, I thank you for joining us tonight and actually sharing your story. I know for sure you're gonna help so many women out there. Just like you said, take a good hard look at themselves, because you just never know what a person is going through. You just never know the environment somebody is in, how they're feeling. And to know that you went through so many challenges, I would have never known, because it was always a smile. It was always, something, like you said, it was always something to hide behind, you know. But for sure, sharing your story, you can definitely help those people who are hiding behind something, who just want to know and understand how they can actually overcome it and start to love themselves. And basically, y'all, she's saying, just say F you. We ain't going to say it out loud, but,
Give me therapy.
So, I want to thank you guys for joining us on the webinar tonight. And please, please follow us on social media, our Facebook, the I'm Loving Me Project, our Instagram, the I'm Loving Me Project. Like us, share us. These are important conversations that we want to have so that we can spread the love all around the world. So I am so grateful, and I thank you, and I cannot wait to see how this goes. I'll see ya. Bye.